What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the world according to Briggs. One of the most common questions I get from viewers outside the United States is where can they live if they're from whatever country they happen to be from? My first answer is always the same thing: wherever you want. And that's the truth. You could move wherever you want, no matter what language you're speaking. Come here, go through the process, enjoy your life. The truth is, 90% of US residents will greet you with open arms, or they just don't care where you're from. Doesn't matter to them. They got their own thing going on. But you have that 10% that might dish out a little discrimination or straight up racism. And that's everywhere. Not just in certain states, cities, or countries for that matter. It's everywhere on the planet. But what they're really getting to is where is the best fit for them and their culture. There's more than a few ways you could approach this subject. You could look at how many hate crimes they have. Hate crimes are usually an indicator you don't want to move to this place. But what I settled on was what I found at the US Census. It's probably not the most scientific way to come at this, but it is very interesting. What state has the most people speaking your language? If there's more people speaking your language someplace, chances are the ones that came before you found the place to be very welcoming. Obviously, English and Spanish will be number 1 and number 2. So we'll be looking at the 10 after English and Spanish. After number 2, I'll give you some other facts about some other languages that didn't make the list that are very interesting. All right, let's take a look. Number 10, Portuguese. Yeah, Portuguese. This one kind of surprised me. I thought it would be higher on the list. I grew up in Southern California and we have a few languages that are everywhere, Portuguese being one of them. Where I grew up in the South Bay of Los Angeles, there's a large Brazilian community. Actually, that's where the Gracies are from. And in Brazil, they speak Portuguese. I was a little surprised that Portuguese isn't even one of the major languages spoken in California. It actually comes in at number 16. But there are a few states where Portuguese is the most common language spoken after English and Spanish. And those states are Rhode Island, Connecticut, and Massachusetts. The US Census estimates there are 847,000 Portuguese-speaking residents in the United States, making up 1.2% of the foreign language-speaking residents. Number 9, German. This one was a little surprising too. I really thought we'd have more German-speaking states and more German-speaking people. The United States has always had a good-sized German population. Sure, some went back during World War II. There was this Volksdeutschen thing where Germany said all true Aryans come back to the fatherland. There's a little under 900,000 in total that went back to Germany for that. I couldn't find the exact numbers for the United States, so I think it was just a very small amount. Interesting little fact about the German population here. German is most commonly spoken in North Dakota, Iowa, Kentucky, and South Carolina of all places. I didn't see that one coming. German is the most common language spoken at home by 900,000 people living in the United States, making up 1.3% of the foreign language speaking residents. Just to be clear, that percentage I'm giving is from the foreign language speaking residents, not the entire US population. Number 8, Haitian Creole. In case you don't know what Creole is, Haitian Creole, it is a language that is a French-based Creole language spoken by 10 to 12 million people worldwide. So there's a lot of them. Just not going on the island of Haiti, you know? At first I thought this was wrong, but then I found out there's a difference between French Creole and Haitian Creole. I didn't know that before, now I do. Florida's the only state where this is a prominent language behind English and Spanish. The US Census estimates there are 915,000 people living in the United States that speak Haitian Creole at home, making up 1.4% of the foreign language speaking population in the US. Number 7, Russian. Russian doesn't have any particular state where they're the most dominant language after English and Spanish, but they do have 3 different states where they're actually number 4 behind English, Spanish, and something else. Those are Alaska, New York, and New Jersey. Russian is the most common language spoken at home in the US by 951,000 residents, it's estimated. That's about a third of the 2.9 million Russians that actually live in the United States. And those Russian-speaking US residents make up 1.5% of the foreign language-speaking residents in the US. Number 6, Korean. I could see this one. Again, like Portuguese, where I grew up in Southern California, there was a very big Korean community, especially in the Torrance area. Korean is one of the most common foreign spoken languages in Washington, D.C., and it's the 5th most spoken language in California. Korean is the most common spoken language at home in the U.S. for 1.1 million Koreans, making up 1.6% of the foreign-speaking population of the U.S. Number 5, French and Louisiana French. There's a difference. It is estimated that 1.2 million U.S. residents speak French or Louisiana French. If you're not sure what Louisiana French is, it's French people that stayed in the Louisiana, eastern Texas area after the Louisiana Purchase. As the generations went on, their language sort of evolved with the people that were around them. So it's got words from English, Spanish, Native American, and African languages. And that Louisiana French is still spoken at home by about 175,000 residents in Louisiana and Texas. French by itself is also spoken in Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine, right behind Spanish. Like I'd said, it is estimated that 1.2 U.S. residents speak French or Louisiana French, making up 1.7% of the foreign-speaking population. Number 4, Arabic. I was a little shocked at this one. I really thought this wasn't as big a thing, but in Michigan it is. I reached out to my friend who I've talked about before on this channel and asked him about, is there a lot of Arabic people in Michigan? He said, oh yeah, it's really big. That and Somali. Somali's not nearly as big as Arabic, but he goes, there's big Arabic communities throughout Michigan. But it's not just Michigan. Tennessee has Arabic as their 3rd most used language in the state. Arabic is the most common language spoken at home in the U.S. by 1.26 million residents, making up 1.9% of the foreign-speaking residents. Number 3, Vietnamese. The United States has been a landing spot for the Vietnamese people for many years. It really picked up steam at the end of the Vietnam War in 1975. Even though they were in the United States, a lot of them are still very attached to their culture and their heritage, and they continue to speak Vietnamese at home. 5 U.S. states have Vietnamese as their 3rd most commonly spoken language. Those states are Texas, Oklahoma, Nebraska, Mississippi, and Georgia. But California and Texas have the most overall Vietnamese-speaking people. California just has something else that blows Vietnamese way out of the water. It is estimated that 1.5 million Americans speak Vietnamese at home. 2.3% of the foreign-speaking population speak Vietnamese. Number 2, Tagalog. If you don't know what Tagalog is, it is the language that they speak in the Philippines. We have a lot of Filipinos living in the United States. There's actually a good-sized community here in Oregon, but they didn't make the cut here in Oregon for one of the top languages. If you ever listen to Tagalog as an American or someone that doesn't speak the language, it sounds very, very fast, like they're going a mile a minute. I mean, it's very interesting. Don't get me wrong, I'm not talking bad about them, but to someone like me who speaks English, a little bit of Spanish, and some Russian, it sounds like they're talking a mile a minute. In the United States, almost 1.8 million people speak Tagalog at home, making up 2.6% of the foreign-speaking population. The only state that has Tagalog as their number 3 language behind English and Spanish is Nevada. All right, before we get to number 1, don't forget we have another channel called On This Day. There's a link down below. And a couple quick facts about this one that didn't make the list. Arizona and New Mexico, their number 3 language behind English and Spanish is Navajo. That's not a foreign language. That's really from here, so I feel weird saying that, but you get what I'm saying. Also, another one that almost made the cut, Illinois, Polish, and Pennsylvania Dutch in Indiana, Ohio, and I guess parts of Pennsylvania. Also up in Montana and Wyoming, they have it listed as other native languages. There's like 5 different ones up there. And in Wisconsin, you have Hmong. All right, on to number 1. And number 1, Cantonese and Mandarin. Basically Chinese. I know that's a major oversimplification, but I don't want to spend 30 minutes discussing the differences. Standard Mandarin Chinese is the official language of the People's Republic of China and Taiwan, as well as one of the 4 official languages of Singapore. So it's used by a lot of people on this planet. And here in the United States, it is 3rd behind English and Spanish in 17 different states. It is estimated that 3.5 million people living in the United States speak Mandarin or Cantonese as their main language at home. The states it is most common in are California, Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Utah, Colorado, Kansas, Missouri, Alabama, New York, Pennsylvania, Virginia, West Virginia, North Carolina, New Jersey again, Delaware, and Maryland. 5.2% of the foreign-speaking people in the United States speak Cantonese or Mandarin. All right, that's today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you got some information out of it. And go out, have a great day. Be nice to each other.